guys, welcome back to my channel. Ignore my hair doing a thing that is not good. I didn't want to deal with it today. So today I'm going to be doing the Unpopular Opinions book tag, which I think is really fun. I think it's really great to show your unique opinions on BookTube, and it really, I think, gives a good view of who you are and what your channel is going to be like, what you're going to talk about, and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be a really great video to film, considering I'm new to BookTube. So let's get started. The first question is a popular book or series you didn't like. And for a lot of these I have multiple answers. So for this is one of the ones that I have multiple answers for. I only actually own one of the books that I'm going to talk about in this question because I hated so many of them that I got rid of them. So the first one is probably going to be the most controversial one on my list, and that is Looking for Alaska by John Green. I did not enjoy this book. I didn't actually finish the book. I read all of his other books. I've read every single other one, even the one that he wrote with other people. I read Will Grayson, and I read Let It Snow. But for some reason, something about Looking for Alaska did not sit right with me. I felt like I knew what happened. I had friends who read it, so I knew what was going to happen at the end. And something about just the characters in it I didn't like. I felt like they were all kind of over dramatic. Like, I realized that the book is supposed to be about a serious topic, but honestly, something about Alaska just, I did not like her. I didn't like any of the other characters in the book. I did not like what the book was counting down to, the event that happens. I think it's a little past the middle of the book. Actually didn't get that far because I just could not sit through it. I was not a fan. I didn't like it. I loved all of his other books. I love most of his writing, but something about that one book I was just not a fan of. Next answer that I have for this is Maximum Ride, and I got into reading a little bit later than most people, so I didn't read Maximum Ride in middle school or even at the beginning of high school. I read it when I was a junior, I believe, and I loved the first few books, but at a certain point, I think it was in like the fourth or fifth book, it got so repetitive, and I felt like they were just using the same storyline over and over and over again, and I was just not a fan of it. I didn't like it. I really wish that I hadn't wasted my time on it, to be completely honest. I wish I had read something else instead. The next one that I have is 13 Reasons Why, and I think a lot of you probably understand why I don't like it, even though it's kind of an unpopular opinion. I think that suicide is a really important topic, but I also feel like in 13 Reasons Why, in the book and in the TV show, it's very much focused on blame, and I don't think that that's ever like a good thing. I don't think that anybody should ever be subjected to that, you know? I think that it's really, I think it's really sad, and I think that the book handled a really important topic, and it handled it okay, but I didn't love it. I did finish it in a day. It was a really fast read. It was really easy, but I was just not a huge fan of it. And the reason that I saved this last one for last is because I loved the first two books. I didn't really particularly love the third, which I never finished, and I want to get back into it and give it another chance. And that is Throne of Glass. I really, really enjoyed the first two. And I started the third one, but for some reason I just couldn't get into the third one. This was like 3 years ago. I couldn't get into the third one, and so I ended up putting them all down and just not finishing them. I actually own the whole series except for the most recent one that just came out. And I read her other series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I really, really liked those. And so I really do plan on getting back into these. I just haven't picked them back up yet. So the next one is a popular book or series that everyone else seems to hate but you love. And this one I had a hard time finding an answer for. So the answers that I picked aren't necessarily books that people hate. It's just more they're not really talked about at all. So for this one I picked The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, and everyone I've talked to who's read it, or all the videos that I've seen about it, people seem to like it, but it's just not really talked about a whole lot, and I absolutely loved it. It was probably one of my favorite series at the time that I read it, which was probably 2 years ago now. I thought it was really, really interesting. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I was very intrigued by the characters. I loved Noah Shaw. I thought it was really interesting how he comes off at the beginning versus how he comes off once you get to know him, because he doesn't change all that much throughout the series, but once you start to kind of get to know him, you can see a little bit deeper into the things that he says, and so even though he's acting the same way, you can start to like him a little bit more because you can understand why he's acting the way that he is. So I really, really enjoyed that whole trilogy. And next, I objectively can say that this series is terrible, but for some reason I just love it with all my heart and I will never stop loving it, and that is The 100 by Cass Morgan. I love the TV show. I have loved the TV show since I started watching it, which was when it was in its second season. I watched the first season on Netflix and then the second season on live TV. I love it. I love the books. They're horrible. They're not good at all. But honestly, for anybody who watches the TV show, I suggest you read the books because it's really interesting to see where the character ideas came from. So, like, Murphy's not in the book. He's replaced with another character. And Wells stays alive throughout the whole series of books. And Clark and Bellamy are a couple, which I love because I love Clark and Bellamy together in the TV show. I know they're not actually a couple yet. I'm still holding out hope. I will never give up. But I just thought the books were really entertaining despite the fact that they're not written very well and the plotline's not that greatly thought out. Watching the show first definitely threw me off a little bit. Basically, I love the books and I definitely suggest reading them if you watch the TV show, even though they're not very good books. And also, I love the fact that Finn isn't in them at all, despite the fact that he's on the cover. I really don't know why they put him on the cover of the books if he's not in the books, but he's not in the books, so if you hate him as much as I did, read the books because you get the whole story but without Finn. The next question is a love triangle where the person ended up with the person you didn't want them to end up with, or an OTP that you don't like. So for this one, I picked Rose and Dimitri from Vampire Academy. I've talked about this before. I will talk about it again. I haven't finished the series yet. I'm on the next to last book or the last book. I don't remember. I'm on one of those two. I hate Dimitri. I hate his relationship with Rose. I think it's so creepy. I don't think she should be dating her teacher. I don't care the situation. I don't care the world that it's in. I think it's wrong. I agree with it. I was not a fan of this couple at all. And in the book that I'm on, which I think is the fifth one maybe, she's actually dating Adrian, who I love. I love Adrian. I don't love him with Rose because I think that he deserves better than Rose, but I do love that character. And if I had to choose between Rose ending up with Adrian and Rose ending up with Dimitri, I would choose Adrian 100% of the time because I do not like Dimitri. I think he's creepy. I think their whole relationship is creepy, and I'm not a fan. Next is a popular book genre you hardly reach for, and I'm pretty much open to reading whatever. If a book is good or if somebody recommends it to me, I will read it for the most part. So this was kind of a hard question for me to answer, but I ended up choosing dystopian. I'm not a huge fan of dystopian. I would rather read something set in a fantasy world or a real world, not some weird like post-apocalyptic thing. And I know I just said that The 100 is one of my favorite series, and that, yes, it's true, but I just don't read a whole lot of books similar to that. Like I read Divergent, and I honestly wasn't a fan. The first one was okay, the last two were not great. Books like that I'm not a huge fan of. I think that the storylines can get kind of repetitive. I also just thought I would mention classics and nonfiction, both of which I'm trying to get into more. I have no problems with them. I just don't typically try to reach for them. It's not what I typically go for, but I really, really want to. I have a gorgeous classics collection at my house. I love the covers of them, and I really want to start reading them. I just haven't yet, so I'm going to soon. And I actually just bought a nonfiction book that you'll see in my January book haul that I'm really, really excited to read. Next is a popular or a beloved character that you hate. So for this one, I obviously can use Dimitri again because no, I really, really don't like Dimitri. But I also wanted to mention Akiva from Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I haven't finished it yet. There's my bookmark. I will finish it. I will finish the series. I would love the plot. I think the plot's really interesting. I really like Karu. I think she's a really interesting character. I feel like it's a very unique story. I don't see a lot of stuff like this around. But something about Akiva just gets on my nerves so much. And I know everyone loves him, and everyone loves him with Karu, but honestly, their relationship I don't like, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, but him as a character, he's very flat. I feel like he doesn't have very much of a personality. He barely does or says anything, and I really don't understand why Karu is in love with him because I can't seem to make any connection with that character, so I can't see what Karu sees in him. For some reason, I'm not a big fan of Akiva, and maybe that'll change in the second and third books. Maybe he'll get better. I don't know. I've only read 3/4 of the first one, but for some reason I was just really not a fan of him. The only reason that I stopped reading the books, I will say the only reason I stopped reading this book is because I went to college and I didn't have enough room to pack it and bring it with me. So I will finish it. I really did like the book itself, but Akiva as a character I just was not a fan of. Next is a popular author you can't seem to get into, and for this one I chose Ransom Riggs because everyone seems to love Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I really liked the first one. I loved the movie, but I just couldn't seem to get into the rest of the series. For some reason, like, I wasn't drawn in. It took me a really long time to get through the first one. I tried reading it multiple times, and then once I finally was able to sit down and read it, I was able to get through it really quickly. But starting it, it just never really pulled me in. It never really, like, caught my attention all that much. So I had a really hard time getting through the first one, and it made me not really want to read the other two because I was like, well, that's just so much... It's so much work for me. Like, if it's not going to capture my attention immediately, then I don't really want to read it because I have other books that I could read that will capture my attention immediately and that I can get really into. The next one is a popular book trope that you are tired of seeing, and I know for this one, a lot of people say love triangles, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I kind of love a good love triangle. Like, if it's written well, I love a good love triangle. If it's written terribly, then yes, I totally understand it's a horrible trope, but when it's done well, I really enjoy it, so I'm not gonna use that as my answer. I've got to say The Chosen One is an okay trope if it's used right and if it's done well. It's kind of overused. I feel like so many people use this one person can save the world and only this person and no one else. And I feel like that's a little bit strange. I'm not a huge fan of that. I prefer books where it's like a normal person gets thrown into this world and they have to save it, not they're the chosen one and they're the only one who can save the world, because I think that it's a little bit more relatable when it's just a random person who gets thrown in and they're like, oh crap, I gotta do something big. I think it's just a little bit easier to read as like a normal person, to be able to put yourself in their shoes and kind of imagine yourself as that character. I think it makes it a little bit easier. And also, I do want to mention insta-love because no, just no. Again, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, one of the things that I really dislike about Karu's relationship with Akiva is the fact that she, spoilers ahead, she only loves him because she is the reincarnation of his past love. And I think that that's really weird because, again, like, Karu and Akiva have nothing in common. They have no real connection other than the fact that she was his reincarnated love. Like, what do they have in common? What do they have that's drawing them together? What do they love about each other? Well, nothing except for the fact that they used to love each other. And I just didn't, I really felt that was too similar to insta-love. It was very like, he did actually insta-love her. He loved her the moment he saw her and he didn't know why, and like, we find out why, but I didn't like that. I don't like the fact that she is just only in love with him because she's been reincarnated, because she's his past love reincarnated. I felt like that was a bit of a stretch. I felt like they didn't really have any real foundation or basis for a relationship, and I was not a very big fan of that. The next question is a popular series you have no interest in reading, and for this one, I picked Lord of the Rings. I read The Hobbit, and I could not get through it for the life of me. I did finish it, but like, I had such a hard time, it took me probably 2 months to actually read it. It was ridiculous. It was horrible. I don't even remember what happened, to be completely honest with you, because I was just not a fan of it. I was really not into it. And so I decided on Lord of the Rings because I mean, honestly, I hated the movies when I first watched them because I was really little and they were too long, and my family is actually hosting a movie night soon with some people where we're going to watch The Lord of the Rings, so I'm going to give the movies another chance now that I'm a little bit older and I'm able to actually sit through long movies like that. But honestly, I have no interest in trying to read those books again because they were just slow, and I was not drawn in. Again, like, that world for some reason just didn't really intrigue me. So I've got to go with The Lord of the Rings. The final question is, the saying is the book is always better than the movie, but pick a movie or TV adaptation that you prefer to its book counterpart. So again, I have a few answers for this one. The first one, I love the book and movie probably equally. The only reason that I have to say the movie is because the casting in the movie is so perfect. I love all of these people so much, and that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is the movie. I own the book too, but this is the movie. And I love Logan Lerman. I've loved him forever. I've loved him since Percy Jackson, since like elementary school. Logan Lerman has always been like one of my favorite actors. Emma Watson is amazing, and Ezra Miller is so funny, and I love all of them so much, and I really, really enjoyed this movie. So I loved the book and the movie equally, but the casting in this movie just honestly put it over the top for me. Next, I picked Warm Bodies. The book was okay. I liked it. I didn't really have any major issues with it, but something about the movie I loved. Again, maybe it might have just been the casting. I felt like Nicholas Hoult and Teresa Palmer did a really good job bringing these characters to life. I think that the plot makes a better movie. Like, it's so Romeo and Juliet-esque that, it is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and I think that something about, like, the aesthetics of the movie, the music of the movie, something about all of it, I really, really enjoyed the movie more than the book. I still have 2 answers for this one. I know I picked a lot, but I watch a lot of movies and TV, so I had to have a lot of answers. The next one that I picked is The 100 again, because as much as I love these books, they will never be as good as the TV show. The TV show is written so well, it's casted so well. They changed it so much from the books, but they did an amazing, amazing job with it, and I absolutely adore it. And lastly, I don't have a copy of the movie, it's a TV show, so I don't have a copy of the TV show or the comic, but I have to go with iZombie. I really loved iZombie, and I bought the first volume of the comic book, and it was okay. I never actually finished it before I ended up getting rid of it, because I just really wasn't all that into it. I was intrigued, I was interested, but they did such a good job with the TV show, and it's so funny, and they pulled in that comic book feel in their intro song and in all of their scene openers, and I just thought that they did a really, really good job at adapting that comic book for TV, so I really, really enjoyed that one. So that's all that I have today for the Unpopular Opinions book tag. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope some of you agree with some of my unpopular opinions. If you do, mention it in the comments, and we can have a conversation, because I love talking about things where I actually agree with people, considering a lot of these things I don't agree with people on. So that's always fun. And I hope you enjoyed, subscribe, and stay tuned for my next videos.